Greetings. This is Justin Allen with the Elite Nurse Practitioner. Welcome to the Elite Nurse Practitioner Show, a podcast dedicated to nurse practitioner entrepreneurism and achieving financial freedom, where I talk directly with nurse practitioners who need help. Listen up, our market is saturated. Jobs can be scarce. We are underpaid. We are undervalued. We are taken advantage of by the sharks within the healthcare system, and frankly, screw that. Sick of it, and it's time for a change. And listen, I'm here to help make that happen. We are powerful. We can forge a path where we are in control of our career and ultimately our financial and personal well-being. You do not need to submit to healthcare administrators and your doctor overlords. You do not have to take the measly salary. You do not have to work 50 to 60 hours a week. There is a different way, and I'm here to show you that path. This podcast is raw and unfiltered. I have not talked with the nurse practitioners in this podcast prior to the call outside of an email exchange to schedule the episode. What you're about to listen to is a consultation session between a nurse practitioner and myself. It is real, it is unscripted, it is unplanned, and I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Anything and everything can happen during our conversation. The nurse practitioners in these episodes are struggling with an issue in their professional or financial life, and they have reached out to me for help. My goal is to help a nurse practitioner with actionable advice that will enhance and improve their professional, business, and financial life. My other goal is to hopefully help my nurse practitioner sisters and brothers build a more productive, powerful, and free life. So I hope the content and information within these podcast episodes does just that. All right, on to the episode. Hey everyone, today we'll be talking to Carissa, who is a family nurse practitioner. Currently, she operates her own med spa wellness practice, and she also has a men's health clinic, so she's very, very busy. The businesses are doing very well, but she is needing help scaling. She's needing help with some business decision strategy and letting go of responsibility. Hey Carissa, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
Hey, I'm good. Thanks for hopping on here. So, tell us about yourself. Tell us, how long you've been a nurse practitioner for, and what sorts of things that you've been doing that has led you to a position where you basically have two practices.
Okay. Well, I've been a nurse practitioner for about 3 years, and I actually opened my practice right when I graduated. As an RN, I have a heavy background in orthopedics and surgery, but I was working full-time remotely for utilization management for a hospital. So I was able to have my part-time practice in a salon suite. And then about 1.5 years into it, I had a medical assistant who was helping me with all the things. And I was able to lease my own building. And in that building, I marketed 2 practices. I had my wellness practice and aesthetics practice, and then my men's health practice, which I marketed separately. We just opened our men's health location to separate the businesses. Some of my guys were making comments about how girly it was in the med spa. And I am now, we did just under 1.5 million gross last year. So we're doing okay. And it's just me. I'm the only provider. I have 2 medical assistants and a laser tech who comes in once a month, but I do everything else. And I do mean everything else.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So a few things there. So number one, first, I want to talk about how you started this right after you graduated, because I get this question quite often, and it's talked about in the Facebook group a lot of the times. And a lot of people, like me personally, I say go for it. But then there's a lot of people also that say, oh, you need experience, blah, 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 blah. And so I feel like the people who are like, you need to get some experience first are the ones who worked for 3 to 5 to 10 years before they started their own practice, and they just have that in their head. But in all reality, I think you could probably do this right out of school. So how was that transition for you? Did you feel like it was stressful? Did you feel like you knew what you were doing? Like, kind of just tell me a little bit about, about that experience.
I'm a pretty confident person in my, my abilities and in most things in life, because I like to educate myself a lot. When I started nurse practitioner school, I knew that I wanted to not be in the insurance space. I already knew that that was something that I just didn't believe was where medicine was going. And then I found the Elite NP podcast, and I started listening to all of the things, and it just made sense to do it the way that I did it. And right out of school, I mean, I already I was educating myself. I was doing other courses on aesthetics and functional medicine, hormone replacement therapy. And so when I started, it was part-time, but I knew what I was doing and I felt really confident in that. The business part was the scariest part. But I didn't, I've been an RN for a long time and I've been in the medical field for uh, 10 plus years now. And it just seemed like the best thing to do. Why would I want to work for someone else or work in the insurance space or, work in surgery and be on call and do all of those things while trying to build a business? I had the perfect opportunity being able to work from home for utilization management full time. And then after that, being able to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, this stuff isn't that difficult from a clinical standpoint. I mean, you know, why do you need to have primary care experience, urgent care experience, ER experience, whatever, if your ultimate goal is to open up a men's health clinic or a med spa or something? Like, those skills don't really translate over that much, you know. I think that as long as you know what sick is, like, and you understand what, you're comfortable with and what's within, what's within your scope and whatnot, I think what you did is exactly what a lot of NPs should do if this is their ultimate goal. So I applaud you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So you have a few practices going right now. You said you did $1.5 million gross in 2025. So that's impressive, especially at year 3. So you're doing something right, obviously. What's your margin like? 40, 50%?
About 50% in the men's health, 50% plus in the men's health practice, and about 40% on the aesthetics wellness
Yeah.
side.
So about 45% total. So I mean, you are making more money right now as an NP 3 years out of school than most MDs will make ever. Like, you know, $600,000-$700,000 a year. That's more than most MDs make, like surgeons. You know what I
And
mean?
less
So like,
student loans.
and less student loans and less headaches. Yeah. So congratulations, you're killing it.
Thank you.
Um, Yeah. So it sounds like your business is at a point now, you are at a crossroads essentially, right? So like you are working yourself to death. You are doing way too much in the business, it sounds like. You are textbook essentially at the crossroads. Like you are textbook self-employed right now, right? Like, you are an entrepreneur obviously because you scaled this to this point, but you are also self-employed, right? Like you are a slave to your own business now, right?
Yes.
So so you are at a pretty common place that most business owners get to. The crossroads here is you can either go left or you can go right. You can take the blue pill, you can take the red pill, essentially, right? So, like, you can either keep doing what you're doing and go left, take the blue pill, basically, right? You can just keep doing what you're doing, work yourself to death, do this for 20 years, and have a business that basically still is 100% relying on you. Sure, you're doing very well, you're making a lot of money, but do you have time to enjoy it? Do you have time to do anything else? And the answer is probably going to be no, right? That's if you go left. That's if you take the blue pill. Now, if you go right and take the red pill, right, you do what most people never do, okay, because they're scared. They are scared of letting go, basically. And they don't know what to do, right? A lot of people just get to a point where they just don't know what the hell, they don't know what to do next. Um, and so, if you go right and you take the red pill, you build a business now that works for you. You go down a path that is unorthodox in nature. You go down a path that 95% of people in this country never take, right? They work until they're 65 years old, investing in their 401k, or they have a business where they're working, and by the time they're just burnt out, at the age of 55 or 60, they have a business they can't sell because it's so reliant on them that they don't have an option, right? And so, how old are you?
I'm 42.
42. So you're pretty much almost the exact same age as me. I'll be 42 this summer. So, So yeah, so you're in a very, very good spot. Like, do you really think that you can do what you're doing right now in this capacity for the next 15, 20 years?
I could, but I don't want to.
Right. You only have one life, right? Do you want that to be your life? Hell no, right? So you are in a good spot. You have a very, very good problem to have right now, but it is a problem nonetheless. So how do you essentially, the three things that we want to talk about here is scaling, business decision strategy, essentially, and letting go of responsibility. All three of those things feed off each other and it's essentially the same thing, really. So we're going to talk about how to scale your business here. So with that said, what sorts of things are you doing now that is getting you out of the business? I mean, you have another location, obviously a fairly large patient base. You got a lot of patients, you're doing a lot of different things. So tell me a little bit about kind of what you're doing now. And I guess it's mostly like automation and key employees.
So I have two medical assistants, one of which works the front desk at the aesthetics practice, and they draw blood, they do the labs, and they help me with patient management, and they're really great. And then I have a laser tech that comes in once a month, and she can do lasers, radiofrequency microneedling. I just haven't really pushed for more than that because of when you have somebody who's on the schedule only once a month, it's hard to put patients on that schedule for all those different procedures. So I bounce around all day. I wear different hats throughout the day. Like I'm literally going from a laser procedure to a radiofrequency procedure and all of these things. And some of the mistakes that I've made are financing equipment for the med spa and, and then making my entire business reliant on me. One of the things I wanted to do by opening up this separate space for the men's clinic was to hire another provider, which terrifies me because I'm very controlling and I want things done a certain way. And I even feel like I almost built my business model based off of me. Like I do 15-minute like free consults, like meet and greet appointments for my men's health patients. And I'm, a 99% closer. But am I going to find somebody else who's a 99% closer? I don't know. Are they going to, I live in the biggest small town ever. And providers are very notorious for entering a practice, being educated, and then going off and starting their own practice. So that's a fear that I have. I have my husband, who is a manager in his salaried position, and I would like to actually take him out of that position and have him manage everything else here. But then my fear is, then we're both here doing all the things. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, you never get a break.
Right. But he's really good at managing people and systems, and I'm not. I'm just a doer. I fly by the seat of my pants every day, and I'm doing all of these things, and things are falling on, off the wayside business wise, because I can't invest all my time in doing all those things. So I have to choose and prioritize my patients, of course. But I need somebody else to do all of those businessy things.
Okay, so let's go over. When you were talking right there, I wrote down 5 points I want to cover real quick. Okay, this is going to be critically important for your success in terms of scaling this thing. So, number one, let's start lower bottom, like bottom tier first, and let's kind of go up on in a pyramid fashion. Basically, the least important employees to the most important employees. Okay, so let's start with the MAs first. Okay. So you have two MAs, correct?
Yeah.
So you have two MAs. So you're comfortable with MAs now, right? So what you need to do is that you need, and you understand the scope of an MA at this point, correct? Like you understand what they can pretty much do. Yeah. Okay. They can do very, very basic clinical stuff, give injections, do vital signs and like that, right? And MAs are fantastic for administrative, running your office, and then also having them there for, doing some very basic clinical stuff, like I said, giving an injection or something. So what you need to do is that you need to do an audit on your daily responsibilities for the next month. Okay. This can be something as simple as just making a note in your phone, okay, and just put Carissa's responsibilities or Carissa's, actions today. What did I do? And as you are going throughout your day, you just start listing out what it is that you're doing, okay? And then I want you to just put like an asterisk or or a little dash and put how many minutes you worked on that, okay? This is going to be kind of tedious, a little bit of a pain in the ass, all right? And it just kind of gives you something, something more to do, but it will pay off. So all I want you to do is I just want you to write down what is it you're doing and how much time you've spent doing it, all right? This can be anything from ordering meds to calling patients to scheduling to whatever, all right? Anything that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, even clinical stuff, all right? Everything, all right? And tally up how much time you're spending. Estimate, doesn't have to be exact, all right? And then what I want you to do over a period of, you might be able to get a good idea of what this is within a week. Maybe it takes 2 weeks, maybe it takes a month, okay? But it shouldn't take more than a month, all right? But you probably get a good idea after about a week, maybe 2. And then go over those things, all right? So I would basically then copy that list and go over to ChatGPT or Gemini or something, okay, and tell it, I am looking to offload my work. I'm scaling my business right now. This is the list of activities that I am doing. Can you please categorize them and break them down from provider level responsibility down to like medical assistant responsibility and give me like a percentage, okay? Basically prompt it and say something like that. And then paste it in there and it'll do the analytics for you and it'll break it all down, break it into categories for you and that kind of stuff, okay? And then you'll have something a little bit more objective to use versus just this giant note that you have with all this stuff, okay? Have it do that stupid busy work for you. And then you will be able to really, really visualize what it is that you need to delegate to other people, all right? I guarantee you that in one day or over a period of 2 weeks, I bet you could probably offload easily probably 30 to 50% of what is it you're doing to another medical assistant. You hire a third one or you use the ones that you have, okay? So get rid of the busy bullshit stuff that you are doing and have someone else do it, all right? You can spread those responsibilities amongst, your MAs, all right? But it sounds like you're probably going to need a third MA, more than likely, all right? And they're worth their weight in gold. $20 an hour, $25 an hour, whatever. Pay them well so they do well, right? Give them little bonuses. Make sure they're appreciated, all right? My medical assistants at my men's health clinic, they get a $1,000 bonus in July. They get a $1,000 bonus a week or two before Christmas, all right? I just give it to them, just to give it to them, all right? They love it. Makes a big difference to their, it makes a big difference in their life, okay? I fill up their gas tank using my company credit card, all right? I buy them lunch like that. I make it a good place to work. They're not going to find anywhere better to work than my business, my practice, you know what I mean? So you need to do the same thing, okay? So you do that, they will stay with you for a long, long time. Right? I mean, I've had MAs that have been working for me for 5 years. They are not going anywhere else. They are just not going to, all right? Okay, so do that. Start offloading all that busy shit to someone else, all right? And then, so that's the bottom level there. What kind of stuff that can you just offload to someone else, all right? Okay, next up is going to be RNs, LPNs, right? You have someone coming in once a month. That's bull. They need to be coming in once a week, okay? If they're not willing to come in once a week, you find someone else, right? They start doing all this procedural stuff for you, these lasers and all these other things that an RN can do, IVs and vitamin injections or whatever, okay? So you go use the list, start going up the pyramid. All right, your RNs and your LPNs or whatever. What can I start giving them? And that's probably going to be, from the sounds of it, probably 20% of what you do, if not more. I don't know, you tell me.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, okay. So, boom, all right? So, essentially now, just the first 2 levels of this pyramid now, your MAs and your RN that you hire, LPN or whoever, all right, you have now just offloaded probably 50% of the shit that you're doing. Does that sound accurate, or am I overestimating that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. 50%, right? You've just gotten back half of your time, right? That makes your life a hell of a lot easier, right? You can start focusing now on building this business so you can get this thing up to $1 million, $2 million net a year so you can sell the damn thing and go live your life. All right. Okay. That's the goal. All right. So do that. All right. Next up here, it's probably going to be hiring that NP. All right. If you want to sell this business, you have to stop seeing patients. All right. Not all the patients, but a lot of patients. Okay. Like I'm selling a practice right now for someone because I do some practice brokering on the side. So I sell practices on the side because I know this space and I'm good at that. And the issue we're running into with this person's practice that we're trying to sell right now is that they see too many patients. So we have basically had to stand back, and now I'm mentoring this individual basically for free because I want to sell their business for them. And we're going to wait 3 to 6 months before we go back to market with it because he needs to stop seeing so many patients. We need to get him down to 10 or 20%. That's it. Right now he's close to 50. It's too many people. Okay. So if you want to sell this business, you need to get into a position where you're only seeing 10 to 20% of all the patients and you have other NPs seeing the rest. All right. This is how you build a business that scales without requiring more time from you. All right. So you need to be looking at the return on your money that you're investing in the business and also the return of your time, right? You've put a lot of time into this business right now over the last 3 years. You put a lot of time into this. You need to start getting a return of that time back now. Okay. You put a lot of time into it and now you need to start getting a return of your time back. Right now, you're not getting anything. You're still putting time into it, and you're not getting anything back. Just like the money you put into it. If I put $1,000 into it, I better get $5,000 back or whatever, right? That's my return on investment. Same thing with your time. You've put thousands of hours into this. Now you need to start getting back those hours. So if you put 1,000 hours into your business, you need to be getting to a point now where you get 2,000 hours back, okay? The only way you do that is doing basically what I'm telling you to do right now. So you have to hire that NP. You have to, all right? Letting go of that responsibility is extremely difficult. We can talk about that after we're done talking about this pyramid, okay? So you need to find some NPs, 2 or 3 of them, all right? Do not hire an NP full-time, okay? You do not want full-time NPs. You want part-time NPs or PRN NPs, but lots of them, all right? It builds a redundancy into your business. If one quits on you, you're not scrambling and having to see all those patients because you got 3 or 4 other PRN NPs that work 10 hours a week. They can go ahead and they can see more of those patients. All right. So yeah, do not hire a full-time NP because if they quit on you, you're so don't do it. All right. It's better to have multiple part-timers than one full-timer. All right. This is a redundancy in your business. All right. It's a safety mechanism. Okay. All right. And then at the top is you and your husband. All right. You guys are running the business. Okay. So that said, if you are able to have your MAs, your RNs, and some NPs take 80% of the load off of you, do you need your husband to manage this, or can you do it yourself now that you have the time? All right. That's going to be a question you're going to have to answer yourself. It sounds like your husband's a lot better at managing people and those sorts of things, so it might be worthwhile to have him do it, but I will give you a word of caution. If you try to sell this business and it's you two at the very, very top operating it and doing all those kinds of things, that's going to be a little bit of a red flag to a potential buyer because they give you 80% up front, right? Let's say you get this thing to $1 million just for simple math. Let's say you get this thing to $1 million net and we sell it for 7 or 8x, all right? You get 7 or 8 million bucks, all right? You get 80% up front. The buyer now is going to be concerned, okay, well, we just gave them 80%. What's to stop them from just leaving the country and going living in Costa Rica and living their best life, right? So with that said, there is a little bit of a risk with that, okay? So, and if you do sell it, your husband will have to stay with the business for, at least 1 to 2 years, and you will too after close, to allow their operational people to come in and take over your guys' responsibilities. Okay. So,
I think for me, the scariest part, I mean, the idea would be that my husband would groom someone else to manage all of the things.
okay.
And because I'm not good at that part, I'm really not. I'm not good at managing people. I'm a very direct person. I'm just I don't know what it is about my personality. I have to remind people, I'm like, just remember, I'm actually nice. Um, but the idea would be that he would groom someone else to actually run all of the things. And like I said, he's better with people, managing people, and he's better with systems and processes. And so that's my only hang up with that, because I think that he would be excellent in doing that, is that he has a management position here, which is actually really hard to find in his department. And since we've moved to this area, this is the best job that he has had. And it's about $90,000 a year. And so losing that income and relying on us to pay him that money, I guess, is what gives me really bad anxiety, because we've put a lot of eggs in this basket, and opening up the new clinic. And, I do have overhead, like I said, equipment finance through the other, for the aesthetics practice and that kind of stuff. We have marketing going out. Like, that's my biggest expense right now, is marketing, especially for the men's health practice. And so I think for me, it's just like a big fear that he'll never get that job again. Like, we won't get that back should something go wrong.
All right. I hope everyone's enjoying the episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick break to thank everyone listening, and also give a big thank you to all of my social media followers and email subscribers. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to our email list at www.elitenp.com, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Email subscribers will receive updates on new weekly podcast episodes, multiple weekly articles we publish, new courses, and everything else related to helping you succeed. Remember, all Elite Nurse Practitioner courses are designed to help you build a niche practice, increase your financial strength, and to break free from the rat race. If I can break free, and the other countless nurse practitioners can break free, then so can you. Additionally, please share this podcast with your other nurse practitioner sisters and brothers out there. The more NPs that venture out on their own, the stronger our profession will become. Now, let's get back to the episode. That is the risk of scaling a business, okay? Every single entrepreneur takes that risk. You get to a point where you give up the job to focus on your business. We've all been there. I've been there, and most people that I know who scale their business, they have to make that decision at some point. And I said this in other podcasts before, no one ever regrets that decision. They look back and they always say, I wish I would have done that earlier. Okay. I mean, you have a business that's doing $1.5 million gross a year. So you have a proof of concept here, right? Like, the business it works. You have proof it does, obviously, right? Are there risks? Could things go south? Of course they can. Competition, fucking economy takes a crap. I mean, there's so many different things. Who knows, right? Most of the time, this stuff is out of your control, so you don't worry too much about it. You build some redundancies in place in your life to make sure you can weather those storms, right? The economy goes into a recession for a year or something. Can you weather that storm, right? Someone opens up another practice. Can you weather that storm with the competition? Okay, so you build in redundancies to protect you from those storms, right? So the obvious one is the financial aspect of it. So if you are living way above your means, okay, one of the biggest things you can do is just cut back, right? Do you have with the money you're making, you should probably have at least a 12-month emergency fund that would support you guys financially, personally for 1 year. Okay. You should have that or close to that right now. Do you?
And it kind of, and I know you're going to hate when I say this, it kind of hangs out in the business bank account. It's there. It's not that I've done anything with it. I know I need to do something with it, but
Okay.
um,
When we get off of this call, you are going to go open up an account with Charles Schwab or Fidelity or Vanguard, okay? A brokerage account, all right? Doesn't matter which one. They're all the same thing, okay? You're going to go open up an account and just as a post-tax brokerage account. This is not a retirement account. This is not a 401k. This is not an IRA. This is just a brokerage account, okay? Then you are going to connect your business bank account to that brokerage account, and you are going to transfer over to that brokerage account all the money that you have in the account minus about 3 months of expenses, okay? You should always have about 3 months of expenses in the bank for your business. No more than that. It's not really necessary, okay? About 3 months. That's just a just in case, right? Just always there. My men's health clinic, it's about $30,000. I always have $30,000 in that account. I never have less, okay? Anything more, though, goes to a brokerage account. So on a monthly basis, that profit that you make, you move it over to your brokerage account. You should get in that habit every single month. Once you start doing this for a couple months, it's fine. You get comfortable with it, okay? Leave some money in there to pay taxes or open up another bank account, okay? And just maybe put the money into a savings account for taxes or something, okay? Or you can just literally, you can put that over to your brokerage account too if you want to, okay? And just put it in some short-term bonds. So that way you're at least making 4%. At least you're making something on it, all right? So what you can do is the money that you're making, throw it over to your brokerage account. And if you don't want to take any kind of risks in terms of investing goes, just buy bonds, okay? They're safe, all right? You can put basically all your money into BIL if you want to, okay? It's a short-term treasury ETF. It pays about 4%. It is as good as cash. It is liquid. It is safe. You will not lose your principal value, and you will make 4% paid every month, right? It's interest, basically, all right? You can put all your money in there and never touch it and just let it sit there and grow at 4% if you want. You can make a lot more investing otherwise, okay? We're going to talk about everything you can invest in right now. It's, kind of beyond this podcast particularly, but, at least do that, all right? Get that money the hell out of your bank account, your business account. That money's sitting there. It's a liability. You get sued. That money is, you can't transfer. Once a lawsuit hits you, you can't just transfer that money out, all right? Like you can, but ultimately the amount that you have in that bank account at the time of the lawsuit is basically up for grabs. So get that out. Transfer it over to a personal brokerage account, or the amount of money that you're making right now. If you wanted to, you could do this. You could do this in the next few months if you want to. It's not something you have to do right now, but start a trust and open up the brokerage account in a trust and just throw the money into the trust account. Okay. It's protected over there. All right. But get that money out of your account. All right.
I will.
So you probably have then 6 to 12 months of an emergency fund built, transfer it over. You are financially stable for 1 year, right? A lot of shit can happen in 1 year. All right. If worst case scenario, I'm talking about absolute worst case scenario, probably won't happen, but business closes for some reason. You go from $1.5 million to zero, right? It's not going to happen, but I'm just talking about absolute worst case scenario. You still have a year's worth of of money in the bank. You will figure out what your next move is within a year. Okay, a year is a very, very long time. You'll figure it out, right? So you do that. You have that. So basically you've taken care of the financial redundancy component of it. Okay, and in terms of competition goes, provide good care, good value at a reasonable rate, get lots of 5-star Google reviews, and if competition opens up, who cares, right? It's probably going to happen at some point. I'm sure there's probably already competition already. So
2 franchises just opened in the last month here.
Okay, don't worry about it because you're going to be better than they are. right? People are going to find more value out of you than that franchise. Okay. They're just going to. Franchise medical practices are garbage. They're cookie cutter protocols. They're garbage, right? So you will be better off, right? You will have patients who are loyal to you, customers who are loyal to you. It's not a big deal, all right? So you put that redundancy in place, you're fine. If you start seeing people start going over there, take care of it, nip it, lower your price, do whatever you have to do to keep those patients, all right? But oftentimes, if a franchise opens up in your city, people will go there and then they will realize after a short period of time, 3 to 6 months, that the care kind of sucks. And then they will start looking for alternatives. And that's a super hot lead. And they will come over to you because the care over there sucks. That's what happened with my men's health clinic. We had a game day or whatever the hell open up. We're getting so many patients from that place because it sucks. Like,
okay,
you know what I
to
mean?
be fair, we already are getting patients from those places.
There
And
you
they
go.
yeah.
Okay, there you go. So you don't worry about it, right? So that's so those are the redundancies you put in place in your life to where if your husband comes over and quits his job and focuses on this business, right? Then it's not much of a risk at all, right? It's just not. You can pay him $50,000 a year, $90,000 a year, whatever. All right. Pay him basically the bare bone minimum if you can. All right. Because you don't want to pay taxes. You know what I mean?
Right. That's the plan. Yeah.
Right. Pay him the bare minimum, $50,000 a year. Just pay him something. So that way, you're operating out of an S corporation for tax purposes, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So that means every dollar now of profit that you have, you are basically saving yourself 15% in employment taxes now, right? So he's actually, in theory, getting a 15% raise. In reality, right? I mean, he just is, from a tax perspective. So, and then the other thing too is that when he dives into your business and he begins systemizing things and creating operating procedures and all of these things, your business is just being fine-tuned now. It is being optimized. And that's what you're going to have to do if you want to work less and less in this business and have a business that's going to be something that's sold easily. Okay? Like these private equity firms are going to buy your practice. They're going to absolutely just love all these operating procedures, and they're going to love how your business is fine-tuned, right? And so have your husband come in there and be the manager of it, as long as you can tolerate that, if you guys have a good relationship and all this kind of stuff. And once he's in there for 6 to 12 months, he will completely understand how it works. He will, develop all these operating procedures. He will fine-tune the thing. And then at that point, you look at your MAs. You have 3 or 4 at that point or whatever, and you figure out which one is the best one. Which one can take this over? Which one is, which one's the best one? You probably already have someone in your in mind, probably, like you have, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Train them to do it. Train them to be the manager. Pay them well, Pay them $70,000, $80,000 a year. They're not going to find a better job as an MA. They're just not, And that's good money for them. And then they start managing it for you. And then essentially at that point, you have a couple NPs working for you. And then at that point, all you and your husband are really doing is you're still seeing some patients because maybe you enjoy seeing your men's health patients. That's all you want to see anymore or something, okay? You're still seeing some patients. Your husband and you can look at the finances. You basically take care of it from a financial standpoint, right? You make sure no one's stealing from you. You make sure the numbers look good. You make sure the expenses. You make sure your profit. You make sure your margin's still sitting around 40%. Okay, that's all your job is at that point, and marketing to get people in the door. That's it. So that's how you build that business in a way to where it works for you. Does that make sense? Any questions?
No, it makes perfect sense. You just said all the things that I needed to hear. I just needed somebody to tell me these things. I already kind of knew them. It's a really big leap for me. And because I am so busy, I don't sit down and focus where I need to focus. I just living literally minute to minute.
And that's the issue. You just don't have the time, right? You're working so much in your business, you don't have time to work on it. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you start small. Start at the bottom of the pyramid first. Okay. Do the audit over a period of a couple weeks. Figure out where the big leaks of your time is, and then seal the bigger leaks first. It might be the NP that you need first, maybe. Okay. So yeah. Now, doing the free consults, you mentioned that. So that sounded like kind of one of your big pain points was like you have a 99% close rate or whatever, something ridiculous, right? Having someone else do that for you when you have that kind of close rate, they're going to have a lower close rate than you are, right? They're probably going to. So just keep doing those then. If you have the time to do them, why not? That's patient acquisition. That's a true income generating activity in your business, and that's what you need to be focused on are those income generating activities. That's an income generating activity. You can keep doing that. And even if you want to sell the business later on, it's fine. Like that's not a problem. I don't see that being I don't see that being a problem.
What these 15 minutes consults are, is basically a meet and greet, right? They tell me where they're at, what they're concerned about. I let them know how it works in our practice, the cost, and I'm very transparent about all the things. And then they all want to see me. And I get this question at least once a week. Well, is there another provider here? Like, are we always going to see you? And the answer right now is yes. And I always tell them, I am going to hire someone eventually, but I might, try to keep my own patients. That's the thing that I worry about the most is that I have a rapport with my patients. I enjoy my patients. I educate my patients probably to death. And I don't want to lose that part of it all. But I feel like if I was like, well, no, you're going to see so-and-so and, they'll be great and, they'll handle all the things, that might be a pain point for my patients.
So yeah, and that's pretty common. That's a really common pain point for patients. They like to see you, right? So as you get a little bit more out of the business and you continue to do those free consults, you can do one of two things. You can start having maybe one of your MAs start doing those calls, or an RN or something, one that's very, very knowledgeable about men's health, someone who can answer the majority of the questions that those patients are going to be asking you, right? I mean, you've been doing this for a period of time now. Overall, for the most part, you can probably, off the top of your head, probably write down 90% of the questions that you get, right? It's the same questions over and over and over again, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same concerns, it's the same questions. So begin writing those down, all right? That way you can create a list, all right? And then the MA that you have in your practice who is the most knowledgeable with men's health, they can begin taking some of those calls and test it and see, okay? I don't do those calls anymore at my men's health clinic. I just don't, all right? My head MA does those calls. But he's been with me for, God, we're going on like 7-8 years now at this point. And he could see patients for men's health now. He could. I mean, you know what I mean? He just could. He knows exactly what I'm going to do. He knows exactly what I'm going to order. Like, he understands all the side effects now. He understands everything now. And so he can pretty much answer 99% of questions from patients. And then every once in a while, I have to answer some really crazy off the wall one or something. You know what I mean? So that's basically one thing that you can do is begin just slowly training that person in your business that you trust, that knows this stuff, to begin taking those phone calls. Okay. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can, when they ask you, am I going to be seeing you? All right. If they ask you that, you can tell them, yes, you will be seeing me. All right. But once we get you dialed in, it might take 6 months. My goal is to get you dialed in, like your testosterone level's perfect, no side effects, nothing. Once we get you dialed in, you will probably start seeing another provider just for refills and stuff because everything is completely dialed in. There's really no point after that. And most patients, most men's health patients, after they've been there for a year or two, they don't care who they see anymore because they don't care anymore. You know what I mean? They're dialed in. There's no issues, right? So you can kind of approach it that way. If they don't ask you that question at all, then you can kind of mark it or something that says, okay, we can send this to this other NP because they didn't care. They didn't seem like they really asked those questions. I didn't really get that vibe from them. So start sending those to those other patients, right? Because every single person calling you is not answering, not asking that, right?
Right.
But the ones that are, maybe you just keep those. That's fine. Your established patients that you have now, you can begin asking them, hey, listen, Joe, you're completely dialed in now. Like, there's really nothing else. There's nothing new here to talk about. For your follow-up, do you mind if you see this new NP? She or he's great. They know what they're doing. This is mostly for refills, et cetera. I'm still always available if you want to make an appointment with me. All right. So you just kind of slowly just start doing that, start sending them off to the other people. And then before you know it, you'll have a group of people that just want to see you. They're stubborn. They don't want to see anyone else. And, it might take a year or two to get to that point. It's kind of what happened with my men's health clinic. But like, I have my patients now. I don't see any more new patients at all. Every once in a while, I might see a new patient. But like, I have my patients that I've been seeing for 5, 6, 7 years now. They don't want to see anyone else. Fine, whatever. I spend an hour or two a week seeing those people. It's not a big deal. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that's kind of how you approach it.
that makes sense.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Okay. So you have any other questions in terms of any of that other stuff goes before we talk about letting go of responsibility? Because I think that's probably your big pain point.
I guess when hiring an NP or a PA or someone else to see patients, I think about like kind of how my business model is and how everything's just kind of like packaged together. It's not like I don't charge for visits. My patients are basically paying for that with their medication management and things like follow-ups and that kind of stuff. So when you have another provider and you're paying them, productivity, right? How do you determine like what that's worth? Is it just kind of, I don't know. I guess there'd be a lot of math for me to do.
Yeah, I feel like that really depends on kind of what they're doing. So, for like simple, like for visits, for medication management kind of stuff, like men's health or women's HRT or weight loss, something that's just more medical in nature where it's a visit and there's a prescription kind of a thing. Um, you know, those aren't necessarily, those don't need to be a percentage of collections in terms of the production goes. Those can just be flat rate things. Okay. Because it's pretty much, these people are paying you every month for this. This is pretty much what they pay for, et cetera. So that can just be a flat rate thing that makes sense to you, at my men's health clinic, I'm sure you've heard me say this multiple times that, we pay new visits are $100 and follow-ups are 50. That's way above market. Okay. Way above market. Most places do not pay that. They pay, $50 for new patients and 25 for follow-ups or whatever. So you can pay them more to make it worth their while. You want to put golden handcuffs on your providers, right? So they don't go anywhere else. Like you want to put golden handcuffs on them. You want them to be reliant on you. You want them to be stuck with you, right? You want to pay them just enough to where the thought of them opening up their own business is too much risk. They don't want to do it, right? So that's kind of how you would approach that. In terms of the other stuff goes, though, like aesthetic procedures, like more like procedural based things, then I think a percentage is probably worth it because they're spending more time with it. You want them to do well, that kind of a thing. So, you're gonna have to run some numbers there to see what works for you. Because I don't know how much you charge for these various different things that you're doing. But something like between 20 to 40% seems to be fairly, market or above market, but don't give them a percentage to the point where you're not making money, obviously. Right. So the rule of thumb with this is that when you begin hiring other NPs or RNs to begin doing more of this clinical stuff for you, the rule of thumb is that you're doing it yourself now, right? And right now your margin is 45%. That's you. You are doing it as the business owner, right? So all the profit's yours. When you start paying other people to do this for you, that margin's going to go down. It's just going to, right? I mean, there's no way around it unless you increase your prices. And then if you do that, you start losing patients, right? So you don't want to do that. So you want to maintain a margin on every NP or RN doing stuff for you. You want that margin to still stay around 25%. Okay? That's where you want it to maintain, is around there. All right? So you begin hiring a lot of these NPs and stuff, and they start seeing more patients for you, etc. You are going to see a hit of your margin for a little while. But it should start making up as you get more NPs and you start getting more patients, etc. Okay? So you will probably settle. You're probably, you having a bunch of NPs working for you and RNs and stuff, the days of 50% margin are probably over. All right? It's very, very difficult to have a 50% margin and have you out of the business and have people just doing it for you, right?
Right.
So the days of 50% are done. You should settle around 30. Is about probably what you're going to be settling at once you're completely out of the business.
Okay.
That's still really good. You know what I mean? Because what's going to happen is your gross revenue is just going to skyrocket. It's going to increase because now you have the capacity to really increase patient volume. And so where you're at right now, making $600,000, $700,000, whatever it is, whatever your net profit was for 2025, you're going to see a dip in that this year. But this is what I mean by investing in your business, right? You're going to be investing money back into the business for staff. So that $600,000 or $700,000 in 2025, that net income is going to dip probably. All right. It might not, because you might just get a lot of more patient volume and it might stay the same. But you might see a dip, or it might stay about the same in 2026, and then 2027. Hopefully, you'll start seeing that now go from 600,000-700,000. In 2027, it might go back to 600,000 or 700,000, which you made last year, okay? Or it might be a little bit higher than that. And then probably 2027, late 2027, 2028 is when you should start hitting that $1 million, because now the business is working for you. Now you have your time back. You can spend more time marketing, income generation kind of stuff, getting patients in the door. So just be aware of that, okay? You're gonna see a little bit of a hit, so don't be surprised when you do.
Yeah. It's scary, but I mean, I really want my time back so bad.
You're gonna have to. Like you're gonna have to. That's business. Yeah, it happened with my men's health clinic. I started hiring a bunch of NPs. Like my profit stayed fairly stagnant for a little while, but I was able to get my time back. Like, you can't put a price on that. I was so much happier. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So letting go of responsibility. All right. This is something that's very, very difficult for a lot of people. And it is what it is. Okay. So you just have to accept the fact that you are going to just have to let go of these responsibilities. You have to just trust people. Like, I don't know any other way to put it. Like, you just have to trust people that they're going to do their job. And if you pay them well and you treat them well, they're going to do a good job. Okay? Probably, unless you just get some bag in there, which happens sometimes. Okay? But if you're paying them well, then then you should be able to trust them. If you create clinical protocols and standard operating procedures for them to follow, you said you like things done your way, that's fine. They will continue. They will do it your way if you train them how to do it your way. Okay? Now, with a provider, there's always going to be some wiggle room there in terms of clinical decision making and whatnot, right? I mean, there's no way around that. Everyone practices a little bit different, but they still need to be following your clinical protocols, right? the last thing you want is to hire some NP that comes in to see men's health patients and they follow the urological guidelines.
Right.
Yeah, that ain't going to work. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So this is the clinical protocol. This is the guideline you're going to use. Is this clinic's guideline? I don't give two about the urology or endocrinology guidelines. We don't make money that way. So if that's what you want to do, I'm not going to hire you. I would make it crystal clear when you interview these people. You're going to follow this clinical protocol. If you are not okay with that, tell me right now before we waste time. Okay? So, yeah. So when you interview these people, you need to kind of make sure you're gauging them and testing them to make sure that they are okay with that. All right?
that's a good point. I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that.
Yeah. You do not want textbook, Nancy in there. You do not want that person in there. You do not want nursing professor Nancy working for you. That's not what you want. You want cowboy Caitlin in there. That's what you want.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. And trust me, there are plenty of those people out there. Okay. There's plenty of them. So don't worry about it. But there are also lots of textbook and professor types out there too. And they will drive you nuts. Do not hire those people. Okay. Yeah.
I feel like we wouldn't vibe anyway. So that's
Wouldn't
good.
correct. You would not vibe. That's right. Like I think I've said this in another podcast before, but like I know I've said this at some of our conferences when people ask me, how do I interview people, how do I talk to people or whatever, how do I hire someone? And one simple strategy that you can do is that when you are interviewing them, like I don't have a filter on my mouth. And when I'm interviewing people, I make sure that filter is even tuned down even more. Okay. I will make sure that I cuss like a sailor and I will talk during that interview. And if I'm sensing that they're getting uncomfortable, I immediately know that you are not going to be a good fit here.
That
So
is excellent.
yeah, a little trick. Okay. So like, if you have a little bit of a filter, throw it in the trash before the interview. Okay. Like, yeah, if they vibe with you and they throw back a or something like that in their language, okay, we're vibing. Okay, I think you know what I mean, right? So yeah, so just that's that's kind of one of the tests that you can do. And another test that you can do as well is ask them this question: where do you see yourself in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? If they sit there and tell you that they see themselves in 5 years opening up their own practice, do not hire that person.
Right.
Yeah, do not hire that person. Like, don't. And a lot of these people will be, they'll be honest with you. They'll tell you that. And you're like, I'm not going to hire you then. No.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. Any questions about letting go of responsibility?
No, I mean, it's going to be a hard thing to do, but I don't have any questions about it.
Okay. You just got to do it. I don't know any other way to tell you. You just got to do it. You just got to trust these people. You got clinical protocol, standard operating procedures. You follow this, and then you just got to trust them. So don't obviously go full blown here, balls to the wall, and hire 3 NPs. Hire one part time, right? Someone for 10 hours a week, and test the waters. Let go of it. Give it a few months. Get comfortable with it. And as you start getting comfortable, that's when you then open the floodgates, start hiring other people and that kind of stuff as you get more and more comfortable with it. Okay? Yeah.
Okay.
Another thing, too, that's ideal in terms of hiring part-time NPs, okay, is that you typically want to hire some NPs who work full-time somewhere else, and it's a good job. So, like, as an example, someone who works at the VA, right? They work for the VA. They know they get that pension after 20 years, right? And let's say that you hire someone that works at the VA, but they just want to do, I don't know, a Wednesday evening and a Saturday morning for you or something. Give you 5 to 10 hours a week. Great. That's all I need anyways. I just need you to see some weight loss patients or whatever, right? Someone that works at the VA, they have that pension and they have really, really good benefits. Someone like that is probably not going to quit that job to open up their own practice. They're just not going to, right? Like, they got 10 more years before they hit their pension. They're not going to give that up. That's someone that's good. That's someone you put golden handcuffs on.
Okay. Or maybe someone who's like in a union,
Yeah,
all of
exactly. Or
those
someone
kinds
who
of
just
things.
has a really good job, who has 3 kids, who's the breadwinner. They can't take those kinds of risks. Those are the kind of people that you want. You do
That's a
not
really good
want
point.
you do not want some ambitious 28-year-old who just graduated NP school, who has their whole life ahead of them. You really don't want that kind of person.
Yeah. I have a couple people in mind. It's really hard for me to even think about relinquishing control or allowing, I don't know. I think it's training them that gives me anxiety too, like having time to do that. But I just know I have to do it.
Just have them shadow you. You know what I mean? Just have them shadow you. Like that's pretty much it. Just say back, okay, listen, you're just going to follow me for the next couple of days, or a week or two. Here's the clinical protocol. Study these, etc. I'm always available for questions. Anytime I've ever hired an NP, they'll be texting me, hey, this patient I'm getting ready to follow up with has these labs. What should I do? I text them right back. So, but after a little while, they stop asking for help because they don't need it anymore.
Yeah. I thought about when I do hire someone, just kind of putting them through the courses, the men's health and women's HRT courses through the Elite NP. Because that was just really helpful to have all the things. I had the base knowledge, but like just kind of having an idea and introducing them into that realm if they're not used to those kinds of things.
Right.
That was something that I considered too.
Yeah, you do that. Absolutely. Just be careful that they don't get to the business sections.
Well, there you go. That's a good point.
Right. Just be a little careful there. Yeah. So, all right. Any other questions?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, this was a scale your business masterclass. So, yeah. Hopefully you have a decent plan now. So
I have a lot of notes.
okay, good. All right. And then, this will be released in, a couple weeks or whatever. And people are listening right now, obviously it's out, but you can always re-listen to it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, I like the end the episode with you asking me a question. You have a question for me, personal curiosity, something like that?
Where are you currently located? You just seem like you're all over the place these days.
Yeah. I'm just at my house in Colorado Springs. So
Okay.
I'm here in Colorado right now. Yeah. It's beginning of February and it's like, there's no snow. It was like,
Isn't that weird? We don't have snow here either.
Yeah. Where are you at?
In Montana, Eastern Montana.
Okay. Gotcha. Yes. You're just like, 10 hours north of me or whatever. But like, yeah, it's like, what is this? It was like 60 degrees on Sunday and I went hiking and like, I just carried my son, pack behind me and I hiked for 3 or 4 miles or whatever. And I was like, I was wearing a t-shirt. I was like, what the hell is this? It's January, February, like, yeah, it's crazy.
I'm a little bit frightened. We'll see what the summer brings.
Yeah, this summer's wildfires and the creeks and the rivers are gonna be pretty low, and yeah, hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully, we get a late winter or a really wet spring or something. I don't know. Yeah. So cool. All right. Well, listen, you got my email. If you want to do a follow up 6 months from now or whatever, just email me and let me know. I would like to know kind of how things are working out for you. So don't be shy if you want to do another follow up.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much for this.
All right. You're welcome. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the show. Quick legal disclaimer. The content of this podcast is meant for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as legal, financial, medical, regulatory, or practice-specific advice. For information pertaining to your specific legal, financial, medical, or practice-specific needs, please be sure to consult with your lawyer, CPA, medical director, and/or your state's practice laws and the most up-to-date clinical guidelines. As always, do your due diligence when it comes to any information found online and in podcasts. The content in this podcast is copyrighted by Galaxy Medical Southwest 2023 and cannot be duplicated, rebroadcasted, or reproduced without our written permission.